Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out on your Tuesday evening and caring about your local elections. It's really great to have you here, and this is a very important issue. So we are here at the Sierra Madre Candidate Forum for City Council. The election is April 8th. And we'd like to thank our co-sponsor, which is the Sierra Madre Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for having us here. And what the League does is organize the forums and actually run them for different groups so that people can be educated about their voting choices. So in this election, we have 4 candidates, and they are vying for 3 seats, and the term is 4 years in office. So the forum has been organized to give voters the opportunity to become informed about their choices for the upcoming election. And this is part of the League of Women Voters Voter Service Program. My name is Felicia Williams. I will be the moderator tonight. And I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Pasadena area, which includes 10 West San Gabriel Valley communities, including Sierra Madre. The League of Women Voters, just by way of background, is a political but non-partisan organization. That means that we study and act on public policy issues, but we never endorse candidates or support different candidates or parties. The League's charter is to promote informed and active participation in government through education and through advocacy. So before I begin, I would like to introduce the other League members that are here helping out with the forum. First, we have the question sorters, and their job is to go through all of the questions, combine some questions that are similar, and then also we have the question rules, and they're following the question rules, and I'll get to those in a minute. But we have Yvonne Pine here and Jane Wallace. And collecting the questions will be Halcyon Kerber in the purple shirt. So if you have a question, fill out the card and hand it to her, and she will bring it down here. And then we have Bonnie Skolnick, who's the very important role of the timekeeper. So you won't see her signs, but they will see her signs. So essentially what will happen is there are 2 minutes for opening remarks and 1 minute for questions, and she will hold up a sign when they are halfway through and then when they should stop. So once she holds up the stop sign, please end your remarks as soon as possible so we can get to all the candidates. So let's review some of the rules for the forum. As mentioned, each candidate will have 2 minutes of opening remarks to introduce themselves and to talk about why they are running for City Council. And they will be speaking in the following order. Noah will go first, and then we will go down the line. When we do closing remarks at the end, which will be 2 minutes as well, we will start with Jean and then go back around the line so that everybody has an opportunity to start. These are the rules for the questions that will be asked by the audience. Only written questions will be asked, so no verbal questions. Submit the questions here, as mentioned. You can direct them to one candidate or to all of the candidates, but all of the candidates will have a chance to answer the question. And each candidate will have 1 minute. There will be no rebuttals to answers or responding to other candidates' answers or questions. It is 1 minute, so you really do want to put everything into your answer. The questions must deal with issues that are in the city and in the election. So what we take out are personal questions about someone's income, their family, those sorts of things. They aren't appropriate for this forum, so we actually do remove those questions. And finally, please hold your applause until the very end of the forum. We started a little bit late, so we usually do about 45 minutes of Q&A. So all in, we'll probably take the last question about 7:20 or 7:30, and that should give us about 10 questions or so. So finally, the League does specify that no campaign activity can occur here, so that includes wearing t-shirts, buttons, that sort of thing, because we are a nonpartisan organization. So let's go ahead and get the forum started. We will start with opening remarks. That's 2 minutes each, and we will start with Noah first.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you all to the members of the audience for coming out tonight. Appreciate your involvement and your attention. Thank you to those watching at home on TV. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for serving as our moderator. My name is Noah Green. I am 38 years old. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for 14 years, since the year 2000. From about 2001 to 2010, I lived and worked in Los Angeles. And in 2011, I switched jobs to a small firm in Pasadena, where I specialize in representing small businesses. That's what brought me to Sierra Madre. I bought a home here with my wife, Melanie. We live up in the canyon just past Mary's. We love it here. We've made a lot of friends here. with any luck, we'll be here another 30 or 40 years, and we're heavily invested in this town. And we thank you all for making us feel welcome. I want to talk about my campaign a little bit. I don't have a lot of razzle-dazzle, a lot of flash. All I have to offer you is my ideas, my mind, and my work ethic. So let's talk about my ideas for a moment. The first idea, the most important issue in my mind, is our water. We're in the midst of a severe drought, and scientists tell us it's only going to get worse in the coming decades. Now, I read the papers, and this issue honestly scares me to death. My in-laws live in Las Vegas, and when I go to visit them, we see Lake Mead sometimes. That's part of where our water supply comes from. And if you've ever seen Lake Mead recently in the last few years, you see that it looks like an empty bathtub. That is a scary thing. I support several measures to improve our water supply and conserve, but number one is gray water. And I'll be happy to discuss that in detail tonight. To me, it's an idea whose time has come, and it's something we should try to implement as much as possible. The second issue that I want to discuss is the budget. As you all know, the UUT is on the... Excuse me, I ran out of time. I look forward to your questions and the discussion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we go to Rochelle.
Good evening, everyone. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring tonight's event, and I look forward to the upcoming 50 minutes or so. The reason I'm running for Sierra Madre City Council is to maintain and enhance the quality of living that we've all appreciated and learned to love. My husband and I became homeowners 7 years ago, and I've been sitting on the Sierra Madre Community Services Commission for the last 5 years. I want to continue serving our city and play a more proactive role in preserving our quality of life. For the last 14 years, I've been a director at a private nonprofit organization. I've managed a $20 million budget annually and oversee 300 staff and employees. In my role, I have not only developed a business acumen for management and for finances and budget, but has also demanded that I work effectively and collaboratively with government entities, union entities, I've sat on both sides of the labor table, community organizations, corporations, staff, and constituents, all of which I feel are effective and essential for being a city council person. Over the last 11 weekends, I've walked every Saturday and Sunday, except for that rainy, I think, March 1 day, but I've walked on over 1,000 doors, and I've talked to hundreds of people, and I've talked to them about their loves, their concerns, and issues about this city. I believe the best way to truly represent people is to listen, and as much as I am confident about the skill set that I bring to the table, at the end of the day, it's about representing you and representing your issues. If elected to office, I intend to continue communicating with you and with residents and voters alike. I'll work towards 4 things, at least as a priority. First is to enforce fiscal discipline. Second is to limit and control development. Thirdly, to keep downtown neighborhoods friendly. And fourth, strengthening neighborhood schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Denise.
Good evening. Along with the League of Women Voters and our chamber for sponsoring the event, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We have a nice crowd here at City Chambers, and all of you viewing from home. I'm sorry. It is very important that we educate and inform our residents and our potential voters on the different issues and where each of your candidates stand. As mentioned, there are 4 of us for 3 of the seats for the upcoming election on April 8th. My experience in education and work, I will start with my work. Currently, I am the benefit administrator coordinator for the Daughters of Charity Health System. And we have 5 different hospitals, and I work in the corporate office. We had to do a restructuring due to finances, and our 7 benefit administrators and 3 comp positions were eliminated, and now we have 3 people who serve both the benefit and the compensation. I also served as the chair of the General Plan Steering Committee when I first moved here to Sierra Madre, and we ended that about a year ago, and it's now going to the Planning Commission. When I was working on the general plan, I had the opportunity to meet so many people part of the mandate for our general plan was our community outreach and getting to know our community. And that's how I got to know a majority of those I know now, and also how we got to understand what it is that the Sierra Madre residents really want today, and tomorrow, and 30 years from now. And as your city council representative, I will do what I can and work my heart out to serve all of you and make those dreams come true.
Great, thank you. So now we go to Jean.
Good evening, everyone. I'd also like to thank the Chamber and League of Women Voters for officiating tonight. I'm also honored to be here with these three fine people. I believe that I'm the most qualified candidate for City Council because of three reasons: my commitment, my independence, and my experience. In terms of commitment, my wife Lisa and I have lived in town 19 years, 14 years on Sierra Keys Drive, just 5 houses down from the field at the monastery, and 5 years on Ramona Avenue. I've been raising a son here for 11 years. This is his hometown. I believe my longevity here in town and my experience as a parent here in town sets me apart in terms of my understanding of our community. In terms of my independence, I have taken a pledge not to accept campaign contributions from political organizations, developers, law firms, labor unions, or any other organization. I only accept contributions from individuals, friends, and family members. You can be assured that my first allegiance is to our town and only our town. In terms of experience, I've been a government professor for 23 years. Government is my area of expertise. I have served as a department head and successfully managed a large staff during hard economic times. I'm a trustee at the Sierra Madre Public Library and have participated in the library's strategic planning process. I'm in my 7th year as a coach and manager in Sierra Madre Little League. I have volunteered for more than 1,000 hours working with our community's youth. I founded and chaired our town's newest nonprofit, Village Vine Online. My campaign is focused on fiscal policy. I will insist on innovations to reduce costs in all city departments. Public safety, I will fight to maintain our own police department and properly fund the fire department and paramedics. Infrastructure, I will push for plans to upgrade our water mains, streets, sidewalks, and tree trimming. And development, I will work hard to protect the monastery field from irresponsible development. You can learn more about me at my website, www.jeangoss.com, and I'd be honored by your vote on April 8th.
Great, thank you. So now we have some questions, and we will go ahead with the Q&A period. Remember, you have 1 minute to answer the questions. The first person we're going to start with is Rochelle, and we will go in the same direction this way. The first question is, what do you perceive to be the main job of a city council member, and how do you personally feel that you could make a difference in this city? So Rochelle, we'll go to you first.
Thank you. I think, as I stated in my opening statements, I think the main job and the primary role of a city council representative is to truly represent. And as much as I have ideas, I have thoughts, I have an experience that provides a foundation for how to move forward, at the end of the day, it truly is about representing you and what the people want. In addition to that, I feel that the city council is responsible for ensuring financial responsibility with the budget, with respect to our city budget, ensuring that public safety is properly executed and properly funded, and that we as the city are ensuring that taxpayer dollars are going to the priorities of the city.
Great. So go to Denise.
I think that the job of the city council member is first and foremost the fiduciary responsible for all of the money to make sure that the taxpayers' money is being spent wisely and is to cover all of our expenses, that it's be done in a prudent way. I also think our city council needs to make sure all of our policies are enforced and make policies that will enhance all of the lives here of our Sierra Madre residents. I also think it's up to the city council to listen and hear our residents and listen to what they are saying, and we have an obligation and a responsibility to make sure that we hear what they have to say. And I also think our city council has a responsibility to take care of our environment and our natural resources.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jean.
Well, I believe government should work for the citizens, not the other way around. And therefore, a city council member, a city council should be bringing the will of the people into city government, creating policies and then targets for the city to achieve the contentment of the will of the people. And I really feel strongly, having been out, I ran 2 years ago, as most of you are aware, so I'm probably the only person in the city, maybe the world, that's actually walked Sierra Madre twice in the last 2 years. I think I have a pretty darn good idea of what's on the minds of the people right now, and we can get into that later, but certainly I'm not interested in pursuing my opinions and my ideas. I think it is clearly a democracy we live in, and we have to be responsive to the people who elect us.
I think the job of a city council member, and I've attended lots of city council meetings and read their agendas. I think our #1 job here is to serve as a watchdog on behalf of the residents and make sure that the budget is being properly, go through it on a line item basis and make sure no money is being wasted, demand a justification for every expense, and to ask hard questions of the staff, to push them in new directions and enforce policy. But in a day-to-day sense, the job of a city council member is really to read a lot of information, listen to a lot of people, synthesize that sort of cloud of information, and be able to understand it and regurgitate it in a way that's clear and digestible. That is honestly very similar to what I do every day. I think I can handle that job. It's very similar to being an attorney. It's simply a matter of processing a lot of information, talking to a lot of people, and putting that information to use.
Thank you. So we'll go to the next question. It is about the utility users tax. So are you in favor of increasing the utility users tax? And if it does not pass, what items would you look at in the budget to balance, and how would you balance that? We start with Denise.
Well, I will make this disclosure because we've said this many times. It's up to the people to decide if they want to extend the UUT to 10% through 2022 and then reduce it to 6%, or if they want to hold to the 2008 measure that was approved by the voters. I will be voting no on UUT. The reason I'm voting no for the UUT is I really think that we need to get our budget in line with what the citizens can afford, with what the citizens wanted back in 2008, and we should have been at that place by now. So what would I cut? I don't think cutting is the correct answer. I think I would look at some of our expenditures. For example, we do have some positions that have not been filled, so we can certainly not do that. I would also look at our consultant fees and see how much money we are paying in our consultants. I would also look at our revenue sources, because our revenue is actually increasing as well. So not only do you have to look at what your expenses are, but what revenue you're bringing in.
Next, Jean.
I echo your comment, Denise, when you say that obviously the 4 of us are not going to be making this decision. It's going to be decided by the people. We have 4 votes, and I know that talking to my supporters all over the city, I have supporters on both sides of this issue. I feel very strongly that we should extend this tax 10% to 2022, and I'll give you the reasons why. As far as I'm concerned, the tax cut that's coming in the next 2 years, if this does sunset down to 6%, is a very modest tax cut. It's significant, though, for me, for my family. That cut in taxes would probably get us maybe a couple bags of groceries at Trader Joe, maybe a direct TV subscription, something like that. So that's not unimportant. But I'm looking at the other side of the ledger, because what we're not talking about here is $1 million hole in our budget. And $1 million hole in our budget, I'm sorry, you will have to see significant cuts. And I've already told you tonight that I am very strongly in support of public safety. I really think that is my highest priority.
Okay, it's actually time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, go ahead.
I'm voting yes on the UUT, and there's a few facts I need to get straight for the record. This is not a tax increase. You see those signs that say it's a tax increase? Well, it's not. It's going to freeze your tax rate at 10%. Number 2, there is an exemption for low-income folks. And you're low income, you qualify for that exemption, and a 0% UUT tax if you make $46,000 or less a year as an individual, or up to $66,000 a year as a family of 4. So it's a misconception to say that it's hard on people on fixed incomes or low-income people. In essence, what we're really going to be doing is saving ourselves about $20 each a month. That $20 is going to mean $1 million out of the city budget. What that really means is that the city employees who work here but generally can't afford to live here are going to suffer layoffs and pay cuts, and I do not think that's fair. I am in support of the UUT because I want my streets paved, I want my police here in 3 minutes when there's an emergency, and I want my water to be clean, and we need to pay for it. We own this town, we're adults, we need to be responsible. I'm voting yes on the UUT.
Next, Rochelle.
Again, not to reiterate, but yes, this is a measure that's up for the people to vote on, and as the next city council will have to deal with as to how to move forward with whatever decision is made. However, with that being said, there's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, and three quick points is water infrastructure. I agree, that does need to be fixed, and that's why we also have a water rate increase that we will be seeing in effect in March, and I'd like to see those dollars directly going to infrastructure, also addressing our debt, and then ensuring that we definitely have water there. It is a percentage increase in the sense that if we keep what has been in effect for as the people have voted in 2008, it would sunset by 2015 to 8%. So this UUT now, if it does pass, essentially would be a tax increase to 10%. And the issue with fixed incomes, I definitely want to address this. It's not just about low-income people.
Actually, that's time. Thank you. 1 minute is a short amount of time. So, and thank you so much for everybody adhering to the timing rules. The next question, we're going to go to community and community involvement. So, as a city council member, how are you going to improve community services, communication with the community, and community involvement? This goes to Eugene first.
Well, I know that the city has set up a new volunteer system where you can register as a volunteer, and I applaud that. I think that's a great step forward, and I understand that people are utilizing that. We were asked this question, or a similar question to this, at the Kiwanis debate earlier today, and I'll just give you kind of a direct answer that I don't think anyone else was considering. I've talked to a lot of people, as we all have, when we're out walking. And one thing becomes clear from folks who have been around a long time, that they feel that they're not allowed to volunteer to do some of the things to help the city out the way they used to be. For instance, we used to be able to trim our own trees and paint park benches and things like that. Well, I think the government should pull back a little bit on its controls and allow people to volunteer, actually volunteer and do things that help supplement city services, not to replace city services, but to supplement city services. I think if people got the word, they would be more interested in participating.
That's time. Okay. Thank you, Noah.
As a general matter, I'm always available and easy to talk to and can be reached at any time. That would remain the same if I am on city council. But I do want to say this. It is our job as citizens to reach out and get involved. It is our job to vote, it's our job to get on jury duty, and it's our job to pay attention to what goes on in City Hall. I don't have to tell you while you're here. But that is the essence of citizenship. It is our job, not the city's job, to reach out to us, but our job as adults, as responsible custodians of our town, to get involved ourselves. Thank you.
Next, Rochelle, and also to repeat the question, what are you going to do to improve community services, communication, and involvement?
As you know, that I've been on the Community Services Commission for the last 5 years, and I truly believe in the work that we do and that the city has taken to really be a leader in community services. And there's a lot of different opportunities, and sometimes it's a matter of our residents not knowing where to go and how to access some of the services and how to be involved. So I think that ties into the communication side of it. I think we've been doing a good job with social media. I think we can do a better job with social media. Not everyone knows what's going on. I was just sharing that I got a phone call the other day about where is the candidate forum, and I called the individual back and I said, oh, here are the different opportunities. So being able to find the different venues to communicate that, whether it's with existing groups that are happening now, whether it's the neighborhood watch groups, whether it's the garden club, whether it's through the Kiwanis, and other unofficial ways. I know the Wisteria Vine was a great way to communicate, but we really have to explore the different venues of reaching out to our residents and ensuring that we are encouraging them to come in.
Thank you. And then the last answer is from Denise.
I spent 30 years as a community volunteer, and part of my love for volunteerism is that you get to learn so much about your community and what is going on and what the issues are and meeting other people. I have found when I have taken on roles where we need to increase our activity, increase our participation, is you have to do one thing. You have to offer residents and people that you want to get involved one thing, and that is dialogue. They need to be able to dialogue with you, and that's what we need to do. We need to set up some venues where our residents can have a dialogue with the city officials, with our community services, and get some suggestions and get people involved that way.
Okay, so we go to the next question. Noah will be the one answering this question first. How will you work jointly with the City Planning Commission to pass the general plan?
Well, I would first I'd have to attend a few of the Planning Commission meetings. I would sit down with people who have run the commission for a long time and learn. Honestly, it's an area that I need to expand my knowledge on. I'd sit down and listen to the folks who have long-term experience and take suggestions and open up to them and hopefully get some important feedback from them and use that to improve upon the general plan. Thank you.
Next, we have Rochelle.
I think it's important to recognize a lot of the footwork that goes into the plan. There are a lot of different levels of input, feedback, rewriting, rewording, wordsmithing. So to make sure that we recognize the value of that, because it's not just the City Planning Commission, it's with the input of our residents and the people. And if there are any other points of contention, to really explore those and understand why decisions were made. I think sometimes we shy away from having those conversations, and just to make sure that we're opening to listening and finding a way to compromise and a way that really meets the intent of the plan and the will of the people.
Next, Denise.
For those of you who do not know what the general plan is, and I know a lot of you don't, the general plan is a mandated report that we have to have on our city, and we update it every 25 to 30 years. So it's a big undertaking when we do it. The last one we had was in 1996, and then we started 5 years ago updating that particular plan. I am currently helping the Planning Commission get the general plan through them. Our committee got their work done. We did our community involvement, we did all the wordsmithing, we went through all the regulations, and now various members of the general plan are attending the Planning Commission meetings so that we can help them if they have any questions about the general plan. And if you haven't read it, you really should.
Gene.
Yeah, I echo that. I think you have to work very closely with the Planning Commission. They are more or less the experts here. I'm an academic. I'm very meticulous when I go over things, documents and information, and I try to be as analytical as possible, and I know that I don't know everything, and I think that it's wise to select people who do have a lot of broad knowledge of these things and consult with them. And so I would seek advice from a broad group of people who I would have respect for in this area, and not make any decisions until I'm absolutely sure that the will of the people is reflected in the general plan.
Okay, thank you. So now we go to another issue, water. And given the drought situation, given the recent water rate increase, and the first person who will answer this question is Rochelle. What should the city be doing with their residents to conserve water? Should there be a reduction in the percentage that you use? Should there be a building moratorium? What other ideas do you have to reduce water consumption?
Water is such a big issue, and there's so many different pieces to it. But with respect to conservation, I heard building moratorium and I heard reduction. You know, all of those need to be considered. And I think people have made an effort to really conserve water. It's not a forced conservation, but folks have been taking the initiative to ensure that they're doing their best to conserve water. And to be able to recognize that. I know at the Community Services Commission we had some efforts to recognize what people have been doing in their community on their own and see if we can continue creating incentives for that. Should there be a reduction? That is a question that's yet to be seen. I think there will be a point where we may have to consider that. People ask if I can do a rain dance. I'm pretty good at it, but I only got one day of it. Building moratorium, I definitely think it should be an issue that is discussed and explored to determine if that is the best step for our city.
Next, Denise.
Water, of course, is a big issue, not only here in Sierra Madre, but in our county and in our state. Here in Sierra Madre, we have a couple of issues with our water, the quality of water and the quantity of water and our infrastructure. The question deals with our amount of water that we have. For Sierra Madre, we don't have any water. We're having to now purchase water for the first time ever from another municipality to get water here in Sierra Madre. I am very concerned that the city has not started to take steps to work on reducing the consumption of water that we have in the city. Other cities across the state have done it. We have a state of emergency from the Governor Brown, who has said we have a shortage. We have the Los Angeles Metropolitan Water District, who has told us they have a shortage of water. We cannot wait until we have no water in Southern California. We really need to start now. And the Metropolitan Water District issued an alert on February 11, 2014 to all the municipalities saying you need to start doing some ordinances to reduce your consumption.
Okay, and then once again to repeat the question, it is, especially in light of the recent water rate increase, what can the city do with residents or businesses to reduce consumption? And the two ideas that were thrown out were a percentage reduction, like other cities have done, or a building moratorium.
Well, it's pretty obvious that we're in a tough drought. The Metropolitan Water District is our source of water. We'd be in a desert, de facto desert. I think we need to do a couple of things. The first thing, we may have to by the end of the year, if the MWD curtails deliveries to municipalities, we will obviously have to cut back on deliveries to our citizens. There's no doubt about that. How would we go about doing it? I think we need to do it equitably. I think it needs to be, a lot of thought needs to be put into this, because we need to emphasize fairness if we're going to take people's water away. Really important. That's really important. Another issue that I would like to see worked on, I'm pushing, is a long-term plan to replace our water mains. I can't tell you, I don't think anyone can tell you just how much water is lost every year by all the bursting 90-year-old water mains across this city. Residents have been telling me this for months, and I knew it from my campaign 2 years ago. So I really think we need to put the city on a long-term plan to do that. And also I'd like to encourage xeriscaping, rainwater catchment systems, gray water, and reduction of hardscapes with new city ordinances.
Okay, thank you. Noah?
Yeah, I support all those proposals. My number one focus has been on gray water. I would require gray water pipe systems in all new construction. If you're going to buy a new plumbing system, we should make it the law that the plumbing system should be a gray water system. 2, I would create a fund for citizens who want to retrofit their homes for gray water systems. We would not have to create that fund out of our tax dollars. There are federal programs and county programs already available. For example, the U.S. Department of the Interior Water Conservation Field Services Program makes funds, that's grants, available to communities who are looking to enhance conservation and use water more efficiently and reduce water consumption. I'm also open to all the suggestions brought up by the other candidates of a building moratorium, consumption restrictions, and frankly anything that would work. This is the most important issue we're facing right now.
Okay, and given that we have a series of water questions, but another one is, and we will start next with Denise, but what is your background, experience, and knowledge in water to be able to help the city with these issues, if it is a big issue? So background, experience, and knowledge about our water, the content, and the system.
Well, I don't have a big background in water. I am married to someone who has a knowledge of water and has been actually worked for water treatment plants. He's managed them, he's directed, he's an environmental. So I've gone to him for a lot of information. And I've also am a researcher. That's what I do. You know, if I don't know something, I go out and research it. That's how I found out that when we were told at the city council meeting the other night that we only had a 2-year building moratorium forever as a rule, that was not true. There's actually another one that we use. So I like to go out and do the research, find out the best ways, talk to other cities, I know that there's a lot of resources out there. Noah was absolutely right. There are a lot of grants, a lot of programs where we can bring them to the city.
Gene?
I actually have considerable experience with water. I grew up on a cattle ranch, and I was very active in the Future Farmers of America way back when, and won a soil conservation award for creating a dam on the property, which allowed me to propagate some of the native fish that were in the area. But then fast forward a few years, when I was in college in a small town in Oregon, I had a job with the municipality for 4 years, working for the water pollution control plant, and became intimately familiar with the sewer system for that city and the storm drain system for that city, and actually was offered a job when I finished a full-time job there, but that I passed on. My sense about water is that this is the old saw that water's for fighting for, or water's for, what is the old saw? The old saw I just blanked on, but I'll tell you this, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing more important than us getting a hold on precisely when the next drought is coming. We need to work now to prepare for the next drought, because right now we are hooked up to NWD and there's really not much we can do about that.
Okay, next we'll go to Noah, just to repeat the question. What is your background in water, specifically in terms of infrastructure, the content of our water, and some of the policies related to it?
Prior to running, my only background was as a consumer, but I've become a student of the issue. I've done a lot of research. I think, again, it's the most important issue we're dealing with. Since joining the campaign, I've met with Bruce Inman, who's the head of our Public Works Department, who runs our water facilities, and Chris Cimino, his subordinate. I've toured all of our city's water facilities, trying to learn as much as I can about this issue as quickly as possible. I would also turn to other cities who are grappling with this issue and have years of experience. We're newcomers to this because we've always had the luxury of our own water supply from the mountains, from our wells. But a lot of other cities have gone through this and taken extensive action to combat the issue. I turned to Santa Monica, for example, Tucson, Arizona, Santa Rosa, California, and cities throughout the Southwest. This is not a new issue. They've been ahead of the curve on us. We should learn from them and adopt some of their policies.
And Rochelle.
I will not begin to pretend that I am a water expert. I am not. What I do know is that we have water issues. Firstly, I want to ensure that with our water rate increase that we really are addressing our infrastructure issue. Absolutely, we've got pipes that are bursting. We want to make sure that our infrastructure is up to date and well maintained. And secondly, we also want to ensure that our debt is being paid off so that our bond rating is acceptable and we are not having to deal with downgrading of our bond rating. What I do have expertise in, though, is expertise in grant writing, finding grants, navigating how to get grants through. I know we have the expertise in this city, but I want to lend my expertise with that too. We may want to collaborate with neighboring cities. Can we do that to get some grants through? I do know there's a bill that is going to be introduced very shortly. It is a colleague and a friend of mine that will make grants available to small municipalities to address specifically things like infrastructure.
Okay. So the next question, this is a very interesting one. It has to do with preservation and development. And the question is, actually, so part of the background is that Sierra Madre received a grade of C+ for its preservation efforts from the LA Conservancy in its annual report, whereas the city of Pasadena received an A. So that's the background on it. What can you do to help, and this is going to, Jean is the first person who can answer this. What do you propose to do to help the city improve its preservation efforts, maintain the quaintness of downtown that we're all familiar with, and prevent the city from looking like some neighboring cities, I'm not going to mention the names in the cards, some neighboring cities that have had a very high amount of development?
Well, I think when you're talking about preservation, I'm getting two different kind of subjects in this question. I'd kind of like to get clarification. Are we talking about preservation as a general issue or preservation of historical?
The historic preservation.
Okay, historical. Yeah. Okay, well, I do want to say that I am endorsed by the president of the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society, Amy Putnam. I'm also a member of that society. As far as I'm concerned, I'm trained in both history and political science. History is kind of my secondary academic subject. I have a love for history, and I think that it's a very, very important thing that we conserve and preserve all the things that we possibly can here for future generations, the things that we know and love about our town, and the things of the past that we can find and preserve. And as a member of the Library Board of Trustees, I've worked with the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society to protect and upgrade our resources at the library that are jointly owned by the Preservation Society and the library, and I think we should lend as many efforts as possible in that direction as a city.
Okay, thank you. Noah?
Yeah, as you can probably tell from my previous responses, I am an environmentalist. I enjoy hiking. My wife and I are always out in the parks and enjoying the outdoors. But one of the reasons I moved here is because Sierra Madre is green, it's uncrowded, it's not built up, and I want to keep it. Like I said, I'm invested in this town. I'm going to be here a long time, and I want to keep it the way it is. That being said, I want to encourage compromise between the parties involved, between developers, between conservationists, and have them remain in control of the dispute and work through it on a process level rather than ending up in court. Look, you've all seen what happened in one corridor. I'm afraid we're heading in that direction again with the monastery. If we take a knee-jerk, hardline stance on issues like this, we need to work out a deal and avoid litigation and expense. Thank you.
Okay, next we go to Rochelle to repeat the questions about preservation and development. How can the city improve their historic preservation efforts, maintain the quaintness of the downtown area, and keep the city from looking to overdevelop like neighboring cities?
Like the other cities that will not be named. I definitely want to applaud the efforts of the Historical Preservation Society. I was just amazed at the collaboration they have with the library, and our library truly is multifaceted. Not as it is it only a library and an art gallery of sorts, but again, it teaches about the history of our city, and again, I think that work should be applauded. With respect to with respect to development in itself, since December, I have been touting that I am standing on limiting and controlling development. I want to ensure that we're advocating for ordinances and zoning for neighborhoods to ensure that we are really creating houses and homes that are in harmony with their neighborhoods, making sure that homes are not oversized for their parcels. I want to protect our hillsides and canyons from the development, and really enforce our hillside management zone ordinance.
Denise?
The general plan update steering committee took a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of hours to reach out to our community, as well as a lot of our civic groups, the Historical Society being one of them. And one of the ways that we looked at all of the policies in the general plan was we actually came up with and developed with our community the Sierra Madre Vision and Guiding Principles, which addresses this issue. So I'm going to read them very quickly here. I just wanted to let you know that I didn't make all of these up. These are from the community. Our first one is to preserve and sustain Sierra Madre's distinctive character as a historic town nestled in the foothills, but within a major metropolitan area. The number two is to ensure that Sierra Madre is a safe, vibrant place to live, work, visit, to provide city services that match the needs of the community and promote community engagement. We protect and be responsible stewards of the neighboring San Gabriel Mountain foothills, wildlife, forest, open space, watershed, and other natural resources. Promote and develop a strong, diversified local economy, and ensure development is done in harmony with its neighborhood.
That's time. Okay. So then we go to the next question, which will be answered by Noah. So how would you attract new businesses and shoppers to the downtown area, but given what we talked about, still preserve the character of the downtown area?
I'm glad you asked this question. I'm Vice President of our Chamber of Commerce, and I've given this some thought. I have two specific proposals I've been circulating. The first is Halloween. We just had our Wisteria Festival last weekend. It brought a lot of people to our town. We only have 10,000 customers for our small businesses. It's one of the reasons they have trouble staying open. Why not piggyback off the popularity of Halloween in this town? I mean, we all go crazy for it. It attracts people up to Alegria to see the decorations. Why not create a second sort of Wisteria-like event based on Halloween to attract more people, at least for that holiday, number one. Number two, last year my wife and I circulated a petition amongst all the business owners, or almost all the business owners, I should say, in Kirsten Court, that would approve and show that they supported a switch of the farmers market from Wednesday afternoon, which very few people, including myself, can attend because I'm at work, and move it to Kirsten Court during the weekends. That is something that will draw people to our downtown businesses and I think help their bottom lines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we go to Rochelle next, attracting businesses to downtown while maintaining the quaint nature.
One thing I heard resoundingly so from a lot of the residents is their desire to be able to shop locally. And I know once upon a time that people were saying, I could get my blue jeans in town. I know things have changed pretty significantly, and of course we'd like to see more businesses in town. I don't know necessarily the role of the City Council in that respect. I'd like to help support any efforts in that. I know the Chamber of Commerce, that definitely is their expertise, and I'd love to see how we can support their efforts, as well as the work that we do with the Economic Development Partnership, that I think it's the San Gabriel Economic Development Partnership that the city is engaged in, to see how we can support those efforts. I work in an organization that has a small business development program, and I know there are definitely different associations to support all of those efforts to attract businesses to downtown Sierra Madre.
Okay, Denise.
I look at it this way: we have two ways to increase our business. One, we can make sure that all of those 11,000 people visit our downtown area and purchase products and services in our downtown. One way to do that was maybe doing some sort of incentive or discount card. I know they had those when I first moved in. And that's a great introduction to a lot of our businesses. I also think we need to advertise you can shop locally. You really can get almost everything you need here. A lot of Taylor's has a lot of more groceries now. Ace Hardware, I don't know if you've ever been in Ace Hardware, but they have everything in Ace Hardware. So we just need to advertise that. And I would like to see the Chamber really promote the Small Business Day. It's a national day that comes out right around Christmas time, shop locally, and see if we can piggyback on that and get the neighboring communities in to shop locally.
Gina.
My wife Lisa and I shop locally. We spend a lot of time downtown, and we have ever since we've been here. We think that's a very important part of being citizens in this town. And frankly, I hear from business owners down there that they're disappointed that they don't get more local shoppers. I think the first thing we could do, working with the Chamber of Commerce, given our limited financial resources of the city, is to do some advertising, maybe even a simple billboard now and then on Baldwin Avenue, just encouraging people to check out the businesses and just reminding them this is kind of not just good for their families, it's good for the community. Also, I'd like to say that we should be targeting, if we're going to recruit businesses into town to try to fill space or in the industrial area on Montecito, we ought to be trying to find businesses that would be acting as agents, that would be taking up a small footprint here in town and would be selling things that don't exist here in town in warehouses elsewhere, where we could get credit for the sale here and get sales tax revenue, but not eat up space and eat up business area footprint.
Okay, so that's time. And the next question, the first person that will answer is Rochelle. And this has to do with City Hall hours. So, what is your opinion of the current days and hours that City Hall is open, and would you change them?
Residents are really advocating for City Hall to be open on those Fridays, to have access to services, whether it be for projects that they're working on, contractors that they're contracting with, to pay things, to ask questions. Yes, we should be open for the citizens and during the work hours that City Hall used to be open before the furloughs.
Denise.
Absolutely, 100% behind keeping those doors open all day and every Friday. Our residents are saying that time and time again. They need to come down here and do something at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning before they're heading off from work. A lot of people are on a flex Friday, so they actually have Fridays off and would be an opportune time for them to come and get what they need done at the city services. Closing our doors does not save any money, so there's no reason why those doors can't be open. I was a public employee for many years, and I worked in public service, and the number one thing I was always taught is your number one priority is to provide service for your public. And so that's what we need to do.
Jean?
I was the first to address this question earlier today at Kiwanis. Absolutely. If there's a consensus on any issue in town after doing all this walking, is that people really like access to their government 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I think that's a no-brainer given the fact that we're no longer facing the severe budgetary problems we were facing just a couple of years ago, which prompted this change in hours. Now look, I have to also tell you that if the UUT doesn't pass, we're going to be taking a look at very significant cuts in budgets, and that's going to affect how much staff we have, and that's going to affect our capability to have people out there meeting the public and trying to perform their functions at the same time. I just think everyone ought to be alert to that fact, but absolutely, we definitely need them out there, and the public needs access to their government.
Hey, Noah.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Jean's comments. This is a classic example of, we all want our taxes to be lower, but we all want services anyway. We can't have it both ways. The reason that City Hall, and believe me, I want it to be open all the time too, but they had to cut back staff because they had a backlog of work due to staff cuts. So in order to have, given the limited staff, they needed time to catch up on the paperwork and then use the remainder of that time to deal with concerns. And I don't like that at all, but again, if we want to keep cutting their budget, we're going to have to deal with things like continued closures of City Hall. I would prefer to keep it open, and I hope we can find some way in the budget to increase the level of staff so they have sufficient workforce to answer all of our questions and keep the doors open during all normal business hours. Thank you.
Okay, so as a follow-up to that question, the first person that will be answering this is Denise. Since you all agreed that City Hall should be open on Friday, how would you rein in spending and balance the budget, especially given the extra day that would be open?
It won't cost any extra money for it to be open on Friday. Our employees are paid to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. So to open it on Fridays would not be any addition, so we wouldn't need to come up with any of that money. It sounds to me that we really need to work with our city staff and our city management to do some job analysis. I would be able to assist with that. That's what I do. If our people aren't able to get the work done, we need to find out why. Is it because they need some extra training? Is that an important job that they need to be doing now? Or now are we prioritizing the workload? So there are a lot of things that you can do besides hiring more staff to actually get the work done. Example, we had 7 people doing benefits for 7,800 people. We had a reduction in force. There are now 3 of us doing it for 7,800 people. You just find the ways to do it.
Okay, Jean, balancing the budget.
Well, are we talking about just this particular issue or the
Well,
larger
it's
issue?
balancing the budget overall, but
Okay.
if the city was open more days.
Well, this issue is a fairly small one, but it is an issue, a fiscal issue. I'm very serious. I heard Mr. Green talk about this earlier. I'm very serious about going over the line items of our budget. I haven't had time to do that. I don't think anyone else has, but I know the categorical levels, but I think the real answer here is for us to do our homework and go over the line items in the budget, and I'm sure that we can find some savings to be able to afford having our employees available to us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with their time in addition to meeting the public. Their tasks are a lot of them are wearing a lot of different hats, so I think you really have to take a close look at how their time is budgeted by management. And then you have to work with that and find a way to make that happen, but I believe it can be done.
Noah?
One item I've seen in the budget that sort of shocked my conscience a little bit, and maybe because I have some expertise in this area, is that we spend $30,000 a month, I think, on legal bills. I know Councilman Kerber has given this a lot of consideration and investigation. I think that is, with all due respect to whoever counsel is, that is excessive. I think we can get the work done for the city with fewer attorneys and lower legal bills. That is, for me, an easy way to reach out and cut down the budget. Thank you.
Michelle?
Just to address balancing the budget as a whole, it's a very complex issue, but at the very basic level, it's about revenues and expenses. And I think there's a lot of things in terms of the revenue that have been under projected that we haven't taken into account in the upcoming years. So being able to take into account things like property tax, business sales tax, although be it minimal, will be expected to increase. And also just the taxes and all utilities at the very basic level have been increased. So taking a look on the revenue side and then taking a look at the expense side. This is again what the work that I do. $20 million sounds like a lot, but when you're dealing with federal money, you're having to really tear out every single line item every year. And it has to do with efficiency, it has to do with streamlining, it has to do with being able to truly prioritize what is important. And they are tough decisions that need to be made. I hope to bring my expertise to this council to be able to balance that budget.
Okay, so we have time for 2 more questions. And the next question is, do you support our police department, or do you support the idea of outsourcing it to the county? The first person is no.
I support keeping the police. A lot of people are talking about dismantling the Sierra Madre Police Department. I'm opposed to that. I do not want to outsource to the LA County Sheriffs or the City of Arcadia. Look, these are facts. Our police respond to emergency calls on an average of 3 minutes. That's one of the best response times in the entire San Gabriel Valley. That's an undisputed fact. Another undisputed fact is that we have one of the lowest paid police departments in the entire San Gabriel Valley. So put those 2 numbers together. We are getting outstanding value for our services. We have one of the cheapest police departments, yet we have one of the best response times. But to me, the icing on the cake is the fact that our police department is accountable to us. If they make a mistake, we can call them to task. They have to answer to us, not to the County of Los Angeles, not to the City of Arcadia, but to the people of Sierra Madre and to our government. Thank you.
Yes, I support our police. I think everybody supports our police. The question as to whether it should be contracted services out, I don't think is something that we should shy away from for at least a conversation and to discuss. Is it ideal? No. Do I like that we know the first names of our police officers? Absolutely. But the fact that we shy away from the discussion, just to even take a look at comparisons, I think is an important point. But if possible, yes, I support the police department and we'd love to maintain in our city.
Please.
Well, of course, we support our police. I hear a lot of times people say, well, we need to outsource it or we need to have the sheriffs take it over. That's not going to save us a lot of money from the budget. Actually, it may cost us a little more because, as we just heard Noah said, the sheriff's department gets a higher salary. So just because we outsource doesn't mean we're still not paying for that person. Basically, outsourcing, we are just taking away our liability expense. I know we have a hard time recruiting here for our police. I think that there are some avenues that haven't been explored yet, and I would like to work with the chief of police. I am 150% behind our community policing. He's done an absolutely wonderful job getting our volunteers involved, and that's what we need to do to increase our community engagement.
Gene.
Well, you won't find a stronger supporter of Sierra Madre Police than me. I do believe that this will come up if the UET does not pass. I think you will have people on the council proposing to outsource the police department, and I will stand strong in opposition to that for many of the reasons Mr. Green mentioned. I think we're getting a bargain when you compare us to other agencies. We're not paying our police very much at all, and yet we are getting good protection. Our crime rate is very low. I love the fact that we have local control. I think that's absolutely vital. I don't want to have to deal with the county when we want to try to deal with police issues. Having said that, our police aren't perfect, and I'm of the mind that we need to have, as a council, regularly input into management, which we'll get to Chief Larry, how our police officers are conducting themselves here in town. And if our people think that they're doing too many tic-tac tickets, then I think we need to send that message to the chief. And if our people think that some of the younger cops are showboating too much when they're trying to answer a call, I think we need to tell the chief that. And I think it's our job to hold them accountable if we're really serious about local control.
Okay, and the last question, we'll start with Rochelle. What do you hope to achieve in the next 4 years if you are elected? Please be specific in listing your top 3 priorities.
I think at the core of the responsibilities for the city council and the responsibilities to the people is really to ensure that we are enforcing fiscal discipline. Whatever happens with the UUT, we will have to determine how to best work with the dollars and to ensure that we are being transparent with it, that we are being accountable for the dollars that we spent, and we're being prudent with the dollars. Because again, at the end of the day, it's the tax dollars of our voters, our residents, and our people, and to make sure that's done. Secondly, I want to ensure that we are limiting controlling development. Again, these are all of my priority issues. I think they're important pieces, and that in the 4 years that I am on council, if I am honored to be your council person, I want to ensure that I am maintaining that stance throughout those 4 years. Thirdly is to make sure our downtown is kept friendly, and lastly is, we haven't talked about our public schools much, but really to ensure that we're strengthening that communication and relationships with the USD.
Okay, so Denise, your top 3 priorities.
Well, of course, the #1 priority will make sure that we are having a balanced budget, that we are protecting our citizens, that we have public safety, and all of that is within our budget. The #2 thing that I would like to do is regain the trust of the community and have the trust between the government, city officials, and our city staff and our community. I would like to work on building that trust, building that transparency, so when we do need something, we can reach out to the citizens. And my last thing, of course, would be community involvement and engagement. That's the #1 priority for me after our budget, is to really increase our engagement and involvement with our community.
Great, Jean?
Well, public safety is obviously #1. We have to have a strong and well-supported police department, fire department, and paramedic system. So that's #1. But my emphasis in this campaign is infrastructure. I really believe that there's a disconnect between a lot of our people in the government, because they look out in the streets and they see trees that have not been trimmed. I had a lady in San Gabriel Court yesterday tell me she sent 2 letters to the city a year ago about a dead tree in her front yard that's on city property, and they haven't responded. I'm sorry, we can do better than that. I'm not going to sit on city council for 4 years and twiddle my thumbs. I want to be a representative of the people here in town and solve some of the problems, the lingering problems that go back decades. We need to put our water mains on track for replacement. We can't do it all at once, but let's start this year and set a plan for 10 or 15 years out. Let's get our trees trimmed. Let's get our sidewalks repaired with real concrete instead of cheap asphalt patches. Let's take the job of municipal government seriously. That's what our people expect. That's what will build credibility between them and the government.
First thing I want to do, as I mentioned earlier, is establish a gray water fund, as I mentioned. #2, I want to build reserves so that we can begin to pay down the $40 million backlog of water projects, as Jean just alluded to. Our pipes are from the 1930s. We need to replace them. And I want to build up sufficient reserves of cash so that we don't have to float another bond to do that. About 10 years ago, the City Council, Bart Doyle, Doug Hayes, Rob Stockley, Glenn Landon, and some other folks were able to save enough money to do just that. They established a cash reserve. I'd like to do that again. And third, I would like to settle the monastery case. This has the potential of inflaming our community, tearing us apart, and causing more and deeper divisions. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want this to get dragged into court. I want this case settled, and I want to do my best to mediate between the parties. Thank you.
Okay, so now we will go to closing remarks. And each of you has 2 minutes to do the remarks. The timekeeper will keep the time. We're going to start with Jean Goss first and then go around. So 2 minutes for closing remarks.
When I had a chance to answer the question about Sierra Madre preservation, I focused on the Historical Preservation Society. I just wanted to tag on to that. I'm very strongly opposed to any large residential housing development on monastery property. I lived 5 houses down from that property for 14 years. I used to walk my son up and down that property for years. It's very, very special to me, and I know it's a very important piece of property in this part of Los Angeles County. So we need to find some way to solve that problem, a win-win situation, so we can do something that will make that property work for Sierra Madre. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for putting on this important event tonight. My wife Lisa and I have invested 19 years of our lives here, and we plan to retire here. Our hope is that our son will grow up and someday choose to raise his family here. We treasure this place and we want it with all our hearts to preserve all that is wonderful about it. I will work hard to strengthen the connection between our citizens and the government. I know that the challenges are very great, very great. But I'm generally an optimist. I believe Sierra Madre's best days are ahead of us. Please join me and help me make that happen by going to my website, www.genegoss.com, to sign up as a volunteer or make a financial contribution. No contribution is too small. I'd be honored by your vote on April 8th.
Great, we'll go to Noah.
Truth be told, originally I wanted to run because it's something I've always wanted to do. Something I've always been interested in was government. I thought I would one day run for office. I moved here. I love it here. I made lots of friends here. I thought this was a perfect place to do so. But since I started running and actually campaigning, my reasons have changed a little bit. What I found out is that the people of this town are even better folks than I realized. They are fair people. They're good people. They are smart. They know better than to pay attention to cheap shots. And they are concerned about policy issues. They know the policy issues on a deep level. I'm impressed. Every time I knock on a door, people call me to task and dig into the details. And I like that and I respect that. I admire them for it. It's those good folks that have earned that respect and earned my admiration and affection. I'm running for them. They deserve the best. They're going to get my best. So I thank you for your consideration, and I hope that I've earned your vote.
Rochelle.
One thing I didn't share about why we moved here 7 years ago. My husband and I wanted a place that we can settle down, a place that if we were to stay in Southern California, we could retire in. I joked at the Women's Club that, yes, we did look at Claremont. We really liked that town. But it was too far, and I work in downtown Los Angeles. But when we moved to Sierra Madre, or looked into Sierra Madre, there was just something about this place. The quaintness, the charm, and I don't want it to sound cliche or trite because it's real, and people use those words to describe this city. And I knew when we moved to this town that it was the right place. I mentioned Tommy Ann, our neighbor, she brought over baked goods. Who brings baked goods still to the homes? Over at Taylor's, when I told them that my pork chops didn't turn out right, they gave me the recommendation of to turn it up. You need to increase it so many degrees, cook it in longer. It's that type of community that I want to help preserve, and I want to be part of ensuring that we're maintaining that type of quality of life. And that's also why 5 years ago that I got involved with the Community Services Commission. This is just another step in me being proactive, me being able to take the will of the people, the thoughts, the issues and concerns of the people, and really make a difference in our city. And I hope that what you've heard today, what you've seen in some of my literature, gives you some confidence and assurance that I can serve you in the way that I think our city should be served. I do thank you. Please call me. My phone number's everywhere. I was told not to put my phone number, and people call, believe me. But call me if you have any issues. I look forward to hearing from you, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Okay, Denise.
Well, in closing, I just want to point out, I have gone through all the line items in the budget. That's why I can confidently say we'll be fine. No on UUT. So I do that because I don't take the word of everybody. I don't take things at face value. And as a member of the City Council, I will not take the word of whoever presents something in front of me. I do think it's important that we explore and do our research. I have been proactive in preserving the Major De La Rosa. We were successful in halting any sort of contract that they may be agreeing to sign. I serve on that committee, and that is what I do. If I see a problem, I try to fix it in any way I can and using my skills. I'm a collaborator, I'm a problem solver, I love puzzles, I like to fix those. I would like to thank the Chamber and the League for, of course, having this event, and I would also like to thank the audience here, and I would also like to thank the people at home who have called and emailed me throughout this campaign. It really is heartwarming to know that we have so many people in our community that are involved. We may not see them down here in City Council. And lastly, you know, when I look back on my term, if I'm lucky enough to be up here, I would really consider myself successful is if the people who voted for me are as proud of me the day I leave the term as the day that they put me into this office. I want everybody to be able to say years from now when Denise was on the council, we didn't always agree with that Denise Delmar, but we know that she was honest in all of her decisions. She never compromised her integrity. She never compromised her ethics. And she did what was best for the entire Sierra Madre population.
Great, those are the closing remarks. So that's the end of the forum. We will have the Chamber of Commerce come up and give some of their closing remarks. But I did want to, now is the time to applaud, because you should applaud to yourself. For being well informed. You should also applaud to the candidates. This is a very difficult and expensive thing to do. So that's how dedicated they are to the city. So an applause for the candidates. And lastly, the Chamber of Commerce, and Ed Chen is here to give some closing remarks.
Thank you. I just wanted to please ask everybody to thank the League of Women Voters, Ms. Felicia Williams, for doing an excellent job moderating. Thank you. I want to thank the candidates for adhering to the time limit and doing a fantastic job. I want to thank the audience that are here today. I want to recognize a few elected officials that are in the audience today. On the City Council, we have the Honorable John Capocha. Who led our Pledge of Allegiance, the Honorable Chris Kerber. Also, our City Clerk, the Honorable Nancy Schollenberger. Thank you again for being here tonight. Remember to vote, and thanks for watching. Vote on April 8th.